Hey there, friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the writing and reading doctor. This video is dedicated to a special student of mine who is working on the English 1 test. Uh, I know that the retest is in December, this next time for a lot of you. So I want you to know that my Texas name is called May the Fours, plural, be with you. It used to be that in elementary, if you got a 4 and another person gave you a 4, they would combine those two scores and give you an 8. Well, in 7th grade, they would double that score and you would get 16 because they wanted the essay to have more value in secondary. Well, 9th and 10th grade still have to take expository and persuasive. Those are two different purposes of writing. So if you think of my palm as the purpose, in 9th grade, you just need a thesis. It's the central idea that they had when they were in 4th grade, the controlling idea when they were in 7th grade, and it's called a thesis for expository in 9th grade. In 10th grade, it's called a position, and it's persuasive, where you try to convince instead of just explain things. Now, if you think of this very simple poem, rhyme, you'll be able to remember how to get a 4 this December if you're retesting. So are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4 gets a good score. 5, 6, 7, 8 turns good to great. Okay. Now, many students, because of all of the problems we've had for the last year and a half, are really struggling with both reading and writing. And so, since many of you will be better at reading than you are at writing, I'm going to show you how to get to 3 land on this video just by showing you an essay that got a 3 from 2 different people. So if you get 2 3s in 9th and 10th grade, that's a 6, and they double it to give you a 12. So that means you would just need one person to change their view to give you a 4. So look at it this way. The student rubric, we're going to look at it in a minute. The first bullet says, clearly state your thesis. May the ones be with you. If they can find that, think about them getting a 1. How to get a 2. Organize your essay. It has to be organized like expository, which means give reasons and give examples. It doesn't matter how many you have. Just remember this, because the third bullet to get a 3 says to develop. Basically, it's part of the second bullet, but 1, 2, 3, 4. How to get a 3 is make sure you develop all of your reasons and your examples. It can't get any simpler than the prompt page that I'll show you in just a minute. Okay, so if you have 2 reasons or 2 examples, just make sure you develop both of them and you will get a 3. If you have 3 reasons, develop all 3 of them. If you only have 1 reason, all you have to do is develop it. We cannot tell the students they have to have 3 reasons or 2 reasons or 2 examples, because in order to get a 3 from both readers or a 4, both of the examples and reasons have to relate to each other. They have to tie together, they have to connect to each other, not just the topic or the prompt or your idea called your thesis or your position in 10th grade. So the 4th bullet says, choose your words carefully. The fourth thing that they mentioned, and I want you to notice my wedding ring. So the word wedding starts with a W, and so does the word words. If you want to get a 4, you can't just develop your reasons. It says choose your words carefully. That means when they are reading your essay, if they can see two things, vocabulary and voice, vocabulary that's a little bit higher but appropriate to what you're talking about, and voice, who you are on the inside your head are your thoughts and opinions. Inside your heart are your feelings and emotions. If you have those two things, I'm going to show you in the adult rubric that you're allowed to share your personal thoughts, opinions, emotions, the way you see the things, your point of view, your perspective. That means you can write in first person. That means you can use a personal example to explain your thesis, your idea, your reasons why. Your example can be personal, hypothetical, meaning it could happen, but it didn't. A current event, something that's happening during your lifetime in movies and songs and videos, it doesn't matter, whatever. We'll be learning that in a couple of other videos. Or a historical event. And for you students in 9th and 10th grade, or you guys in 11th or 12th grade that are taking the retest, historical means anything that happened before you were born that you can use to explain your idea called your thesis. Your idea is about your topic. So how do you keep the 4? That the last thing says, in order to not kiss everything goodbye, and I don't mean that in any derogatory way, in order to keep that 4 from both readers, you have to look at the paper and work on what I call the ER, the editing and revising emergency room. Look at the editing, the conventions, the grammar, and look at the revising, how you organize it. Make sure that you have the things on the checklist, the bullet, and make sure you develop whatever example. And if you've been having trouble, I'm going to encourage you to have one reason and one example, because if you can do that, you can get a 3 from 2 readers. And the one I'm going to show you today got a 3 from 2 different readers, which turns into 12 points. And some of you might need those 12 points in order to pass, because that's a lot different than getting only a 2 and a 2, which gives you only 8 points. Those 4 points could make the difference between passing and failing, going from a 2 to a 3. So I'm going to show you today the prompt that you were given this past year. Those of you that are taking the retest for English 1, this is called the prompt page, and it will say expository. And I want you to notice there's only one I, meaning one idea. There's only one T, meaning one thesis. Okay. The prompt is the first, second, third section. The third section is the write section. Write an essay explaining how receiving support from others can help you achieve success. And for those of you teachers who have been watching my videos, prompts and topics all are related to the 6 W's plus 1, who, what, when, where, which, who, what, when, where, why, which, how. This one is the how. How can receiving support from others help you achieve success. What you might see in December or in April, write about the importance of receiving support from others to help you achieve success. If you see important, you can use the word important. Since the word important is not there, you can say it's important, or you can use a synonym of importance. And notice here, I want you to write, students and teachers, if you write student rubric right here, just to remind yourself, what do I need to do to get a 1? Just make sure your thesis is there, your thesis statement, a sentence that talks about this topic. And this is a cause and effect. Watch. Receiving support from others is the cause. Help you achieve success could be the effect. And so if you only talk about this part of the prompt, but not about success, you can only get a 1 or a 2 because you're only doing half of the prompt. If you only talk about achieving success, but not talking how important it is to receive support from others in order to get that success, if you don't have the cause and effect relationship, then again, you're only going to get a 1 or a 2. They have to have a relationship. Make sure these are, I call these dual prompts, okay? In order to turn the 1 into a 2 and then a 3, I'm going to put a 3 on this end. You organize, make sure you have reasons and examples. But I want you to notice the first 2 letters are EX. Example. Take an example and EXP, explain it. ORY, I only need 1 reason why. I don't need to have 2 or 3 or 4. Just take your essay and give 1 reason or 1 example, like what I'm going to show you, and develop it. And then they have to move you from 2 land to 3 land because you developed it. That means spend 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 sentences on that 1 reason or example. How do I move the 3 to a 4? My 4th finger had the ring on it. You engage the reader by choosing your words carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4. Choose your words carefully. And we said that if you take a W and break it into 2 V's, you get vocabulary and voice. And so the voice is your thoughts and your opinions that could be inside your head, your feelings and your emotions that could be inside your heart, your senses, the way you see or smell or hear the world, what it sounds like to you, what your point of view, your perspective. And then in order to keep the 4, make sure you edit your writing for grammar, mechanics, and spelling, okay? Make sure though, you also remember to revise. Fix any content. If you don't connect second reasons, it's better not even to have the second reason. And keep in mind that if you can get 2 people to give you a 3, it turns to a 6 and they double it to a 12. If you get 1, 3, and 1, 4, that gives you a 7 doubled to a 14. If you can get 2 people to give you the 4, that gives you an 8 doubled to a 16. And so on today's video, I just want to show you, this is the adult rubric. The people who grade the papers, there's a few things that I made in green, greener, greenest. If you can do these things, you'll get a 3. Is there a clear thesis statement? Are the transitions as you move from idea meaningful? Are you showing the relationship among your ideas? See that right there? If you don't connect your ideas in terms of the way you organize them, you're not going to be able to get the 3. GPS means get pretty specific. The development of ideas is sufficient because the details, the examples that are specific and appropriate, adding some substance. So make sure you take your whatever example or reason you give and get pretty specific with it. Okay. Some thoughtfulness. The essay's response is original rather than formulaic. In other words, not starting the same way as everybody else, not having the same exact amount of reasons, not having to say, oh, everybody start with an anecdote, everybody start with a question. No, those are called formulaic approaches. And one grader might be forgiving on that and still give you the 3, but many readers are going to give a 2 if they feel like the essay is too formulaic, where you're saying things like my first reason, my second reason, my third reason. Those are not meaningful transitions. In conclusion, your word choices should be clear and precise, specific. The sentences are varied and adequately controlled. In other words, you don't have to have all long sentences, but you don't want just short sentences. My age or more can get a good score. You guys are in 9th grade, you're like 13, 14. Some of you are 15, 16, 17, 18. So you could have sentences because of complex and compound sentences that could have your age. You could also have sentences that have your grade. Make sure some of your sentences have 9 words or more, or 10 words or more. You can have sometimes say something in 2 or 3 words with more power and meaning than you can with 10 or 20. So vary your sentence length, and then of course, make sure you have adequate command of your sentence boundaries, your editing, okay? Make sure that there's not run-ons or fragments, okay? And just don't forget to go back and check the revising. That means the organization and the development of the essay, okay? Let me show you the clear differences between a 3 and a 4. Meaningful transitions, strong sentence-to-sentence connections. The idea is specific and well chosen. In other words, this is an outside the box idea. I call it in my trainings the bling, not the blah. If the reader has to grade 100 to 200 essays per person, and that's per day, and that's what they do because they get paid to grade quantity and quality, unfortunately. They're not going to give very many 3s and 4s if they're reading the same reasons or the same idea. If all you did was regurgitate the prompt words almost exactly and didn't really add your own take, your own word choices to it, that's not very well chosen. Notice that at this part, it says it's thoughtful and engaging. It's connecting emotionally and mentally to the reader. And notice that it says this: the writer may choose to use his or her unique experiences. That means my personal experiences, a personal anecdote that you can use to explain your idea, your reason, your thesis, okay? You can connect to ideas in interesting ways. You can use any creativity that's appropriate. You don't want to upset the reader. And then, of course, just make sure you have strong grammar. All right. So with that in mind, many of your teachers or many of you have my writing folder. And this is the outline for the expository essay right here. When we work on persuasive, I'll be using the binder. I used to have the Spanish version here, but I wanted to make sure that as we transition to 75% multiple choice and 25% constructive responses, and we have some open-ended, some short, extended, or essay responses, we'll be able to know how to get a 1, how to get a 2, and how to get a 3. But for 9th and 10th grade, we still have to do expository. So remember the red light, 911, the purpose is expository. The prompt was how getting support from others can create success. Do you have a wow, a hook, an attention getter, something that gets the reader's attention? You could have words of wisdom, the whistle, because I use a train for my plan. The train whistles. My CIS, if you're going to still be teaching expository in 4th grade, you'll call it from 4th grade and lower, a central idea statement. 5th, 6th, and 7th can call it a controlling idea statement. 8th and 9th would call it a thesis statement. And you wouldn't call it expository a position statement, because in a position statement, you're trying to persuade. And so in order to turn the 2 into a 3, explain, EXP. In order to turn the 3 into a 4, explode with higher vocabulary and voice. Okay? In the body, what we're going to find? We're going to find one reason, one example, or experience, and the person's going to use a personal example, not hypothetical, not a current event, not historical. And remember, they're going to turn it green, greener, and greenest. GPS means get pretty specific by using the who, what, when, where, why, which, and how. You can use the W's to help you explain your personal example, which is what we're going to see in a moment. And you can explain, you can explode with voice and vocabulary, your toes. There's a saying that says, don't judge a person till you walk a mile in their shoes. Well, inside their shoes are their toes, their voice. And that's right here. That's the spice of the writing. Did you have the topic addressed clearly? Did you possibly use a truism, a quote, a word of wisdom? Do you have good transitions? Is your head voice there? Your opinions and your thoughts? Is your heart voice there? Your emotions that you either tell with higher vocabulary or you show by your actions? Did you use your 5 senses? Did you use some appropriate dialogue? Did you use salsa, which I called the high vocabulary, and then some figurative language? And if they're going to use it, then they can go to the bottom of the writing folder and choose from here all the way until December. I suggest that you get these. And then of course, in 9th grade, you're going to get 9 editing questions. And these are the keywords strands for editing. I just barely made these this past month. I've redone them to make them very closely aligned. Cups is editing, the conventions, which we talked about. And revising is the arm, not arms, because they don't use substitute on a test. You're going to get 9 questions. And so if you can get the 3 plus 3, 6 plus times 2 is 12, and you can do well in editing, 9, that's 21, 9, that's 30, that's 30 points just on half of the test. This is half of the test right here on this page. So you could get 16 plus 9 is 25 plus 9 is 34. 34 points are expository, editing, and revising, and the other 34 points are reading. So if you can do really well in these 3 areas, you have a good chance of getting that 3 or 4. In the binder, in the beginning of the revising section, there's this, that's your opinion page, and it's nothing but opinion words on here. And so because 9th grade and 10th grade use the word important a lot, you could use one of these synonyms instead of the word important, or you could use lots of these words that are underneath the overly worn out words. And if I flip it over, there's my heart voice, how I feel about things. And I have another page, the very next page has lots of other synonyms with other emotions on them. And so instead of using the red ones that could be off limits, you guys can use some of these, and that would be telling your voice. If you show me your voice, you write what you do when you're happy, what you think when you're sad, what you say when you're mad. It's like your reactions to the world and to the ideas you're writing about. So this is the essay that I wanted to show you today, to show you how easy it is to get a 3 times 2 is 6, doubled to 12. 3 words that come to mind right away. They're sharing their thoughts with you. When I, oh, some of you said don't use the pronoun I. It says you can use your own point of view and perspective. And so some of you are giving your kids lower grades by using the pronoun I. You just don't want to tell a story about something that happened. You want to explain why you chose your idea with a personal example. And so if your personal example, your anecdote is explaining a reason or your thesis, then you're allowed to share it. We just don't want nothing but what happened one day in your life that has nothing to do with the thesis that you wrote about. When I think of success or hard work, accountability vocabulary, and being coachable vocabulary, some people think they can succeed all on their own without anyone's help. Okay, so giving another person's point of view, while others know you need support and help sometimes to succeed. Now, that he or she made a mistake and put an apostrophe S, you're not going to lose a 3 or a 4 just because of one grammar mistake. No one's going to be perfect. Here comes a thesis. It's important to accept support from others because you never know how far it can get you on your road to success. And so if you look at the prompt, where do I have that? Make sure you see the prompt one more time. Receiving support from others can help you achieve success. It's important, they added that word, to accept support. So they changed receiving to accept from others, because you never know, that part was what they added, how far it can get you. They added that part on the road. Instead of achieving success, they use an idiom or a metaphor, a road to success. Okay, so you never know. Okay, so the transition to the body is not my first reason, it's in my own life. Okay, so at Dollar Tree, you can buy these little blocks in packages of 4. So if you're the kind of teacher that says, I need an introduction, that turns the red light, the topic, into a yellow light, and the blue can be reason or example number 1, the green could be reason or example number 2, and the red could be your conclusion, your ending, your editing, and your revising. Okay, what I want to emphasize here, since the student only used 1, we'll use a little blue box, and you can open them right here on the bottom. And as I'm reading to you, you're going to see me for each sentence add 1 Smartie that I also got from Dollar Tree to, here's the Smarties right here. They come in packs of 25 packages for $1. So you could technically put your whole class in groups and do this as a group, or you could do it with partners, and you could be having them add to their own little box. If you can put your class in 4 groups. You need to buy 4 of these little packages for $1. In my own life, I have seen firsthand how taking others' support and advice led me to be successful. So, period. That's a transition to the body. What they're basically saying is, I'm going to tell you from my own experiences how getting support from others helped me. I like the in my own life because they didn't say my first reason. Okay, because they added the word advice, I'm going to add an extra one. Led me is a great phrase. So now we're going to get GPS, get pretty specific. My summer going into freshman year, I was on the volleyball team, and it was all I focused on and practiced. Sentence. Okay. Anything that I feel is important here? I don't need to capitalize somewhere. That S looks a little bit big. Don't capitalize any of the Four Seasons except for the name of the hotel. Okay. Was all I focused on and practiced. So that's going to be our example, her personal example. So they're going to explain, as long as what they write about is talking about how the person's support of them in this volleyball team and their advice led them to become better and better as they practiced, then there's nothing wrong with these eyes that you're seeing. I knew right after it ended, I I would jump straight into basketball season, period. Okay. Because they shared their thoughts, I knew that's something that's inside your head. So I'll give an extra one for that. Jump straight into basketball season. That's an idiom. They're not doing any literal jumping. That's figurative language. So I'll give extra credit for that. My parents and I were both shooting to be on varsity team. So it wasn't just me, my parents and I were shooting. They weren't really shooting. I'll add credit for that in a second, but I needed to put in the work before the season would start. So that's one sentence. I'm going to give an extra one because I see a coordinating conjunction. I see two independent clauses joined by a comma and a fanboys. Okay. Shooting, the idiom there, extra credit. And we already have the parents involved supporting her to get on the varsity team. You don't really, I don't think you need to capitalize varsity there. I would never get around to practice basketball, comma. So my parents tried to fire me up to start practicing and told me all the benefits that would come from me putting in the extra hours. That was quite a long sentence. Let me see what it's composed of. There's a coordinating conjunction. I needed to put in the extra, so my parents tried to fire me up to practice, okay? And they also told me the benefits that would come. So a compound predicate, they told two things that they did for them, so I'll give them credit for that. I can't remember, I remember them saying firing me up, that's an idiom. And so many of you have seen me use monkeys, and so however many smarties I have in here so far, I could also use blue monkeys and link them together because they could all be details or sentences. That's me GPSing, getting pretty specific about one idea. They wanted me to be successful. That's their parents' point of view, okay? So I decided to show them that I wanted it even more, okay? A complete sentence again. And it was again a compound sentence. This teacher was really good at teaching coordinating conjunctions with two independent clauses. I would never get around to practice basketball, so let's see, they wanted me to be, so I decided to show them that I wanted to even. Nothing really fancy there. I would encourage, because we've used a successful 2 or 3 times already, maybe come up with a synonym for successful, look that up. I practiced. And so we're seeing here that this writer is showing us the process, not just the product, not the end product. A lot of students skip all the details, and because some of you are telling them, oh, don't tell me too much. No, I need to know enough of the process, how your parents went about helping you as you had this goal of being on the varsity basketball team. Remember, there's volleyball and basketball being discussed here. I practiced daily, day and night. And before we knew it, volleyball was over and tryouts were the next day. Now, I want to remind you that here we talked about basketball, and here's volleyball. And so remember that the goal um, that I can tell from here is being on the varsity team. And so as we transition, sometimes another sport can take up all your time. And so they're doing a pretty good job of moving from one sport to the other. Volleyball is over, tryouts were the next day. And so not tryouts, volleyball, because that's what's over. And so everybody else has been working on nothing but volleyball, but this person was putting in extra hours practicing the basketball. Now, if you would talk about this got a 3, what did you practice? Did you practice free throws, layups, dribbling? If you went into detail about the kind of practice, what you were working on in practice, and letting the reader see and feel like the sweat that was just pouring off of your body as you were practicing, that probably would have turned a 3 into a 3-4 or a 4-4. I practiced day and night for volleyball the next day. I will give a sentence for that one. I didn't do it. Tryouts were over and I had made the varsity team. Okay. Another sentence. Nothing fancy about that one. My parents were very proud, but I was more thankful to them because if they hadn't supported me and pushed me to practice, I would not have made the varsity basketball team as a freshman. So the reason they're saying the freshman part is most of the time you just get to be junior varsity as a freshman and often even as a sophomore. So even all that is one sentence. I'm going to give 1 for the sentence, 1 for the coordinating conjunction, and the because statement at the end. And the proud was the emotional connection. And all this is about the connection of making sure that even though volleyball season was in full 100 miles an hour motion, the student was still working on basketball. It would have been nice to know, when did you practice it? Where would you go to practice it? Who did you practice with? Remember I said the who, what, when, where, why? If you ask those W questions, how did you practice? Did you work on free throws for a few minutes, on uh, 3-pointers? Did you work on dribbling? Did you have somebody better than you playing so you could work on defense? None of that is there. So the who, what, when, where, why, the specifics of the actual practice kept this 3 from getting a 4. And so then we transition to the conclusion. And so if we just restate and repeat, that's not really going to be something that's going to leave the reader with a sense of closure and completeness. If we write in conclusion, that's what everybody else is going to write. So are we going to have a meaningful transition? As you can see, taking support and advice from others is not a bad thing and often leads to success. Okay. The sentence, the as you can see transition to the ending. And I'm going to give 1, it's not a bad thing. Now, since this is a 9th grader or a student taking the 9th grade, instead of using the word bad, we could have used a synonym for bad: horrible, disgusting, ugly, rotten. So remember to be kind and accept what's given to you. Okay. Be kind. And if we are more specific about Be kind to those who want to make you a better person in whatever way, and accept what's given to you by them and others. So it was a two sentence, it was an ending. It only had two sentences, but you see that being kind is something that you would do, and accepting what's been given to you is another one. So it was a good conclusion. I don't think my life is going to be transformed. I don't see quite a reflection. How is my life different or better or worse because of the transformation being a freshman uh, varsity basketball player has made in my life? People walk by me in the halls and pat me on the back. You can come back in and tell a little bit about how your life was a little bit different, because that will kind of add. And uh, because success is how do you feel at the end? How do people treat you? What do you think about yourself? And what I like about what the student did, how are you grateful to others for the help that they gave? So what they always do for you that are new to writing, this is directed to the teacher, explaining this is why we gave this a 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6, times 2 is 12. And so only one personal example was given. The practicing of basketball, even though they were in the middle of volleyball season. So I think that with the folder that I shared with you, if you, with your students, would ask the who, what, when, where, why, which, and how questions about the actual basketball practicing, your students would be able to add some depth. And what has to happen on this essay is what happened on this one. You would have to write a little bit smaller. Um, that way you can have more words per line. Uh, but a lot of times students, just to finish fast, they write really, really large. And, starting next year, it's all going to be typed. So it'll be probably uh, a specific word count that you're going to be allowed. Uh, so we're gonna have to graduate from writing smaller with print to all typing the same size, because I don't think going to allow you to change the size of the font of the letters. It'll probably be the same size. So that's my idea on May the Fours Be With You. It was one personal example about the help and support that was given to this boy or girl by his or her parents. And I showed you how it could have gotten a 4 if they would have shared their feelings and emotions as they were putting the effort. Because if you're practicing volleyball and you're going straight on that same day to practice basketball, you're going to be emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted. And so I want that to come out on the paper. I want sweat to be dripping off my body just as I'm reading the words of your paper. I want to feel like I'm there. The torture that you're going through, the commitment that you make because your parents have encouraged you to not just settle for junior varsity, to say, no matter what, I'm going to be on this varsity basketball team. And hopefully working a little bit on the ending and on the GPS, getting pretty specific with the 6+1 W's. This 3 could turn into a 4. And Julius, I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I hope that you're able to see that with one example that explains your thesis, your idea, you can get to 3 land or 4 land. God bless you guys. Please share or tag this video if you're an English 1 or English 2 teacher, because your students will be testing for the first time in December, and half of the test is expository, editing, and revising in English 1, and persuasive, 9 editing and 9 revising in English 2. The field test questions won't count, but they will be there, I'm sure, in December. So click like on this video. Please share with your teacher friends. If you are in elementary or middle school, the same concept applies. You don't need 3 reasons or 2 reasons. You don't need a bunch of examples. It's expository. We're supposed to explain, not do exampletory, where I give you lots of examples of ways my parents can support me, but never explain any of them. That's why lots of kids are getting 2s, because they're just giving lists. They're giving lots of reasons and lots of examples. And I told you, 2land says organize. Give me reasons and examples. I'll give you a 2. Explain however many you give me. I'll give you a 3. Give me voice and vocabulary. By choosing your words carefully, I'll give you a 4. And make sure you have strong or adequate grammar, and I'll let you keep the 3 or the 4. Take care and God bless.